current Saudi Houthi talks mediated by Oman give hopes to revive peace efforts in Yemen. Houthis continue to obstruct delivery of aid to people, risking lives of millions of Yemenis. Displaced people in Marib struggle to rent houses amid incredible rise in rent prices. Good evening, this is Yemen Today TV. I'm Abir Ali and you're watching the English news. The current Saudi Houthi talks, facilitated by Oman, give people to revive peace efforts after a period of installment in the past 3 months. Despite including the PLC from those talks, observers still hope that it can bring hopes to ending the conflict. This report has more.
According to Yemeni, Saudi, and United Nations officials, back-channel talks between Saudi Arabia and its rival, the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels, have resumed in the hope of strengthening the informal ceasefire and laying the groundwork for a negotiated end to the long civil war. People in Yemen only want to live in peace. Recently, the UN envoy to Yemen, Hans Grunberg, announced a new approach he is developing, which calls for immediate action to reduce military escalation, halt economic deterioration, and move towards a long-term political settlement. Rashad al-Alimi, the head of Yemen's Presidential Leadership Council, reaffirmed his country's commitment to the comprehensive peace approach and partnership in power and wealth. During the Davos panel discussion, the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia said that progress was being made towards ending the Yemeni conflict. He added that if Houthis and the government of Yemen reach an agreement, this can lead to a political progress.
I think that truce in place was real progress, but we need to work to transition that truce into a permanent ceasefire. Is that going to happen? It's not clear right now. There is significant obstacles in the way, but if we can convince the Houthis and the government of Yemen to reach a permanent ceasefire, obviously the coalition will completely support that, and that then can open the way for political progress.
The conflict in Yemen began in 2014, making everyone extremely vulnerable to death and famine. People in Yemen suffer from constant daily violations, and the conflict has displaced more than 1 million people. Now, Yemenis have no option but to wait and see the conclusion of these negotiations.
The British ambassador Richard Oppenheim assured the UK's support to the Yemeni government in the economic measures taken to avoid the consequences of the Houthis' attack. He added that they are working to help the Yemeni government to move forward.
تضرر الاقتصاد اليمني بشدة بعد 8 سنوات من الصراع. يعد الاقتصاد مزدهر أمرا حيويا لتوفير الوظائف وسبل العيش اليمنيين، فضلا عن تقديم الخدمات العامة الأساسية ودفع الرواتب. سبق لي أن أدنت هجمات الحوثيين لكونها سببا مباشرا لتفاقم التحديات. تقدم الحكومة اليمنية سلسلة من الإجراءات الاقتصادية للحد من الأثر الاقتصادي الذي نتج عن هجمات الحوثيين.
The British ambassador Richard Oppenheim revealed an upcoming meeting of the International Quarter in Yemen. The meeting will discuss ways to provide urgent support to the Yemeni government, which is already suffering from the effect of the Houthi attacks on oil export ports. He said that the Yemeni economy was severely destroyed after 8 years of conflict and that it was necessary to provide jobs and livelihood for Yemenis. Houthi continue to obstruct the delivery of aid to war-affected people. According to the United Nations, such Houthi restrictions risk lives of 10 million Yemenis in need of aid. This report has more details.
About 10.1 million people in need across Yemen are living in the areas controlled by the Houthis, which makes it very difficult for them to get any aid according to the UN Office for Humanitarian Affairs. The UN noted that the operating situation in Yemen remains extremely difficult, with more than 3,500 events involving humanitarian access being reported in 2022. Humanitarian organizations face many obstacles that lead to a delay in the delivery of the needed humanitarian assistance. In 2022, there was a report of 4 abduction cases and 13 detentions. The humanitarian aid organizations face incidents including carjacking, kidnappings, and violence. Although Yemen witnessed a 6-month UN truce that decreased civilian casualties and displacement by 76%, low-level clashes continued in frontline areas including landmines and terribly impacted civilians. According to a UN report, the humanitarian operations in Yemen witnessed a significant funding decrease. The humanitarian response plan was only 54.6% financed at the end of the previous year, leaving a $1.94 billion gap that had an impact on the distribution of humanitarian aid and reduced emergency food supply. The report also revealed that millions of people continue to experience the negative effects of armed war, the continued economic crisis, and the disruption of public services after more than 8 years of fighting. Between October and December 2022, an estimated 17 million individuals experienced a crisis or acute food insecurity. In addition, the UN warned that the conflict and the deterioration economic conditions in Yemen are only going to keep increasing the food insecurity and malnutrition levels. There is no doubt that without continued commitment from donors, millions of people will go hungry and the lives of millions of malnourished children will be put at risk. Yemen's current level of hunger is extremely dangerous, causing great suffering for millions of people. Unfortunately, the help provided still does not reach everyone in Yemen, leaving many people on the verge of starvation.
Yemen, the worst famine the world has seen in 100 years. Right now, over 8 million people are facing starvation. Since the beginning of the war, 85,000 children have died due to the lack of food. We cannot allow this to continue. The Yemeni people can't wait.
Displaced people in Ma'rib Governorate struggle to secure housing units amid incredible rise in rents. This report has more.
Finding suitable housing in Ma'rib has become nearly impossible due to the weekly increases in rent for residential apartments. The price hikes imposed by owners of apartments and real estate in the city have made it difficult for those who have been displaced to obtain housing, seeing as there are no laws that restrict price inflation. A 2-bedroom apartment with a kitchen and a single bathroom runs for 300,000 riyals, in addition to a down payment of about 2 million. However, after about a year, residents find themselves looking for new apartments after their landlord has upped rental costs.
Currently, there are no laws in place to regulate real estate pricing. Tenants who formally rent out these apartments are surprised to find that rental prices have gone up overnight. Rental prices are now a form of exploitation, and landowners expel tenants who can't afford the new prices for ones who could.
People from lower socioeconomic classes who fled their homes due to the conflict and Houthi tyranny expected normalcy and security to greet them once they arrived in the Ma'rib Governorate. However, there is nowhere for them to live in the liberated governorates. Here, in one of the neighborhoods in Ma'rib, 12 families carry out a vigil demanding justice after receiving several eviction notices. When the case went to court, the judge decided in favor of the landowner, who voted to evict the family and replace them with new tenants, who could pay several times the value of the rental units, which topped 500,000 riyals.
We've been living here since 2016, and we were shocked to find that landowner wanted to evict us for a higher paying tenant. We call upon relevant authorities to regulate rentals and provide housing for residents in the governorate. If we were to leave this apartment, where would we go? Our children are still in school.
Given the growing avarice of apartment owners and a huge demand for housing in the governorate, excessive rental costs for residential apartments is upsetting many of the locals, who fear they will lose their housing. Meanwhile, concerned authorities have done little to curb this growing threat.
The president of the Court of the Appeal in Hodeidah witnessed the signing ceremony of a 60,000 square meters land granted by citizens to the university. The signing comes in line with the directions of the state and citizens to cooperate in establishing a midpoint for a university project in the liberated areas. The University of Hodeidah will serve the people of the liberated districts in the governorate as well as the neighboring areas in Taiz.
This project is going to serve directorates within Hodeidah and Taiz, such as Al-Mukha, Shamir and Mawza. University education is considered a turning point to any society, which illuminates minds and changes country's future.
A civilian and a child were killed and another was injured when 2 Houthi mines planted exploded in Hodeidah. According to local sources, a 15-year-old child was killed as a result of a mine explosion in the neighborhood of Hodeidah Airport. A citizen was killed and a 12-year-old boy was injured in another mine explosion south of Hodeidah. A Houthi sniper targeted a 14-year-old girl in Taiz. Eyewitnesses confirmed that the child was injured while returning from visiting her grandmother's grave, which resulted in her head injury. It was reported the child is currently in intensive care in the hospital of the city and her condition is critical.
Yesterday, we went to the cemeteries to visit our family who've been killed by the Houthi militia. While on the way, a Houthi sniper has shot many bullets on unarmed citizens, which resulted in the injury of my daughter on her head and the injury of my nephew in his chest.
Coming next in the news. Reem Salem, a Yemeni expatriate in the UAE, wins Hamdan Marathon Camel Race.
نشن الدماء من الغل والغلظة بعيد، كنا ندي بالدواب نعبي ماء وترجعنا. ننزل الساعة 5 رجعنا الساعة 9.
ما يجي لنا ظهر لأن زحمة ما حد لي يخلي الجهل يغرق وإحنا تعبنا زيادة.
وكنت أحس صدري يوجعني وعز قدرك ركبي يوجعيني.
كنا بنستخدم حتى نغسل أولادنا يعني بأيام معدودة.
كنت أغيب على المدرسة لأن كنت أروح الديمة.
حتى وإن كان يجي الأمطار تروح هدر لأنه ما في معي غزة.
الوقت نشتري ب30,000 دي مع هستيلك ما يغلقش معها الشهر.
بس راح تطلب الله ولا أي حاجة عاملة كل شغلك الماء.
Welcome back. Reem Salem is a Yemeni expatriate in the United Arab Emirates, has won the Camel Tarek Marathon organized by Hamdan bin Mohammed Heritage Center. The following report gives more details.
Camel racing is a popular traditional sport that has gained attention among expats living in the UAE in recent times. This year, a total of 24 camel riders from 18 countries have taken part in the race, which is held annually in the UAE. Surprisingly, the Yemeni expatriate Reem Salem held her ground from start to finish to claim first place, and she won a 100,000 cash prize in the 4th edition of the Camel Marathon. Salem finished the 2 kilometers camel race held at Dubai Camel Racing Club in 3 minutes and 10.5 seconds, and she won the top prize in the marathon. She clarified that the race was very intense from start to finish, and she was so happy to finish on top. She added that she would like to thank Sheikh Hamdan for organizing this annual race and for training the racers to become excellent camel riders. She said that UAE is her second home country, and winning this heritage sport gave her immense pride and honor. A Chinese citizen who previously won the race came in close second place with a time of 3 minutes and 11.5 seconds and received the second cash prize. And another French racer claimed third place after finishing in 3 minutes and 14.5 seconds. Sheikh Mohammed bin Said crowned the winners in the presence of Sheikh Abdullah Hamdan, who expressed his happiness with the high number of participants and the diversity of nationalities in the annual camel race for expats. Sheikh bin Dalmouk also took note of the strong partnership with Dubai Camel Race Club in holding the annual event and underlined the organization's role in implementing the directives of Sheikh Hamdan in promoting Emirati heritage sports among expats in the UAE. Reem Salim gave a glimpse of hope to all Yemenis to strive and pursue their dreams even in the lands of the diaspora.
A Yemeni researcher revealed that the antiquities in Ib Governorate have been exposed to looting and smuggling. The researcher said that archaeological sites in Yemen are subject to large-scale random excavations, including the ancient city of Dhafar in the center of the country. According to historical sources, there are a number of archaeological and historical forts in the region, including Fortress of the Oracle. A campaign was carried out by the police of Hais district aimed at removing violations on the city's public street. Director General of Police confirmed that illegal constructions and slums got removed as planned. He explained that the campaign put an end to violations on the public roads, especially between Itisalat and Al-Nahda School. The Executive Office of Trade Union Committees in Aden Oil Company announced its rejection of the decision of raising the price of the custom dollar. The office said that the decision will lead to an increase in the prices of the transportation and foodstuffs, and the citizen will be forced to buy them at high prices. They added that the justifications given by the decision will directly affect citizens' livelihood. An 18-year-old English volunteer has skydived 15,000 feet to raise funds for a Yemeni maternity and children's hospital in Yemen. More on this story is within this report.
Liverpool teenager Josie Theobald skydived 15,000 feet to raise funds for Yemeni maternity and children's hospital. While she was nervous before her skydiving in Australia, she was motivated to help the Al Sabain hospital. Josie used to volunteer for the Habibati humanitarian organization in Liverpool, and she had her own organic cosmetic line, with 50% of revenues going to the Yemeni hospital. Habibati is a charity that aims to raise 40,000 British pounds to help Yemeni health professionals who provide life-saving services to vulnerable newborns and children. According to UNICEF, the ongoing conflict in Yemen is one of the world's biggest humanitarian crises. More than 23 million people, including about 13 million children, are in need of aid as a result of the war. Habibati has raised £100,000 in prior years and presently sends £2,000 every month. Josie voiced her admiration for the health workers at Al Sabain Hospital who have kept going for so long in the hardest of circumstances through war, disease, poverty, and hunger. Habibati helps fund and treat children affected by the war and treat severe and acute malnutrition, cholera, diphtheria, malaria, and COVID-19. 8 years into Yemen's armed conflict, violence, economic hardship, and declining health facilities and infrastructure are progressively preventing women and girls from receiving basic health care. As financing constraints drive humanitarian groups to reduce aid, their plight will worsen. According to UNICEF, less than half of all births in Yemen now are attended by qualified health workers. According to reports, 1 woman and 6 babies die every 2 hours in Yemen due to pregnancy difficulties and reasons that are almost entirely preventable, owing to restricted or no access to health treatments. As hunger intensifies, the need is greater than ever.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. Current Saudi Houthi talks mediated by Oman gives hopes to revive peace efforts in Yemen. Houthis continue to obstruct delivery of aid to people, risking lives of millions of Yemenis. Displaced people in Ma'rib struggle to rent houses amid incredible rise in rent prices. This is the end of the news. It was Abir Ali, and thank you for watching.